Ask Congress to join me in pursuing a great goal. Let us build on the work we've done and reduce gasoline usage in the United States by 20% in the next 10 years. When we do that, we will have cut our total imports by the equivalent of 3/4 of all the oil we now import from the Middle East.
All right, that was President Bush in his State of the Union address last night. Just how feasible are his energy initiatives? Joe Romm is Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress, author of Hell and High Water, says the president's proposals are too little, too late. Ben Lieberman, Senior Policy Analyst with the Heritage Foundation, says alternate fuels will work only when the market demands it, not when the government demands it. So, Ben, you're a free marketer, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. The key word in the president's speech was mandate. 35 billion gallons of ethanol is being mandated. Keep in mind, the only reason these alternatives need to be mandated is because they're too expensive to compete otherwise. So essentially what he's talking about is forcing the American people to switch to costlier energy options.
All right. And, Mr. Romm, do you see it that way?
Well, no, of course not. Gasoline has been has huge marketplace advantages built on trillion-dollar sunk costs of the gasoline fueling infrastructure. If you want to get off of gasoline, and I think everyone does, you're going to need mandates, you're going to need a renewable fuel standard. So I certainly endorse what the president put forward in the gasoline area last night.
But do we have a reasonable alternative here in corn-based ethanol? We've already seen corn prices shoot up dramatically. We're seeing livestock producers trimming their herds because their feed is getting too expensive. A lot of people are saying this is not tenable.
Well, I think corn ethanol is just one piece of the puzzle. If you read the president's underlying statement very carefully, he includes a lot of other potential alternative fuels, including cellulosic ethanol. And he also
But aren't we going to need subsidies for that? I mean, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, once you have the mandate, that allows the free market to determine what the cheapest way to meet the mandate is. But I think it's very important for your listeners to understand that no country has ever successfully replaced gasoline without a mandate. So I certainly endorse what the president did here.
What about that, Mr. Lieberman? History says we have to have it this way.
Well, again, it's a choice that we have to leave to the American people. Do you want what's most likely going to be very much more expensive energy? You mentioned corn ethanol right now. The 4 billion gallon mandate that we have now, which is mostly met by corn ethanol, is already causing problems, as you mentioned. So ramping up to 35 billion gallons is a big leap, and we'll need some dramatic breakthroughs. And these are the kind of breakthroughs that we've heard promised for the last 30 years, and it hasn't happened yet. So setting a mandate and crossing your fingers that big breakthroughs will occur, that's a very dangerous policy.
What do you think of the, Mr. Lieberman, what do you think of the SPR comments the president made?
Well, he's going to expand the SPR. I guess that's a good step. It's been criticized in the past. Chuck Schumer and others, when gasoline prices were high, criticized the president for filling the SPR. So there could be some political difficulties with this. But a larger SPR would be a good insurance policy in case of a catastrophic loss of supplies.
You agree with that, Mr. Romm?
Well, not really. It's the SPR is kind of a pointless thing to add more to. We're talking about like $40 billion worth of oil the federal government would have to buy to double the SPRO. So it's a lot of money. I think we could find better uses for that.
Such as?
Well, we need to push. I mean, the president mentioned plug-in hybrids, and that was a big start. And in Hell and High Water, I talk about the kinds of vehicles we need, the kind of electricity we need. I was disappointed that the president said so little about global warming. This had been hyped up as a big, U-turn on climate policy, and all he did was have like 6 or 7 words on it. We need mandates to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, just like we have mandates the president proposes for higher fuel economy standards.
All right, gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you very much. I appreciate both of you, Joseph Romm and Dan Lieberman. I beg your pardon, Ben Lieberman. Later this hour,